Welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash. This is HeroQuest, and today we're going to be taking a look at what's Sunday Quest Conundrum of Yuckthorn, Path of the Wandering Monk, and the Rogue Heir of Elithorn doing here. Oh, those are the grand prizes I still need to ship to the grand prize winner of the HeroQuest Quest Jam 2025. Never mind that. I'm behind, but rest assured that's going to get done. Today, we are actually taking a look at DeathForge Games MegaQuest Awakened newest tier, the tier that includes the miniatures. This is the all-inclusive, everything's all together package of DeathForge Games flagship product, which acts as a great full-featured homebrew system for your favorite 1 to 5 player asymmetrical dungeon crawling board games with initials that might mean hamburger quiche. Now, I have a very kind note from DeathForge Games, but I'm not sure which parts of this are supposed to be public facing, so I'll just read off the relevant bits to you. Enclosed in this package is the first batch of miniatures for MegaQuest Awakened. So that's very important. This is the first batch. We may see refinements, we may see resculpts, alterations made here and there. Especially after this video, because I'm sure I'm going to point at things and say, what's that? From this point forward, I, as Deathtone from DeathForge Games, will be selling a version of MegaQuest Awakened that includes the miniatures on my website. The current price is $150, but I'm actively working to lower it as much as possible. Don't click away yet. Hold on just a second. $150 is the tier of the homebrew stuff with this, and I'm going to show you what that would be. So 1 second. Okay, this is MegaQuest Awakened. This is something that I have looked at extensively on the channel. The most recent version of this I have a whole video about, so go check that out. If I can get the force of this black hole holding this box together to come undone, I might actually create a second Big Bang. But no, there we did it safely. Consider yourself lucky. The cards in here are quite jumbled because of my handling of this box the last day or so, especially this morning, but rest assured all of this stuff goes into separate decks, and then we have some really nice high quality material tiles with pretty good art on them available with this package. So there are a lot of decks of cards. There is an entire manual with how to play with a quest book included, and then you have all of these different modular, and that's important, ways to expand your game. And now, because this box was designed to also hold the miniatures, we have the miniature version, the miniature inclusive version. So we're going to look at those today. And yes, $150 is going to price people out, just like when I review the dirt cheap dungeons and say, hey, this dungeon wall costs $1, people still comment saying that's too expensive and it prices them out. So, you know, I'm not here to shame, but I mean, some of this deserves a bell ringing. Some of this deserves a grudging. Some people don't really know what cheap is. Still, $150 does seem like it could be quite high for a lot of folks, so I would caution you to consider this is the beginnings. This is what it costs right now. The creator is actively working to get this price lowered, and I imagine a lot of it has to do with, well, if we, the printer, can print more of them, we'll charge you less per capita, and then the creator can say, good, I can turn around and charge less per single order as they go out. And I'm sure there's more to it than that. Every game and homebrew and physical product creator has their own story, but just know this is actively being worked on to be cheaper than $150. If you would like to support the creator and help that journey along, then you can get these now. But each copy of the game will come with 1 miniature of all 15 heroes and 2 miniatures of each monster or summon that MegaQuest adds to the game, a total of 30 miniatures, and some of these are big chonkers, so we're going to get to that very soon. There are big plans for the feature, like turning MegaQuest into its own standalone game rather than just a system-agnostic fan-made expansion that will come later down the road. And the creator wants to give a shout out to Inktree Miniatures, who printed these for him. There's a website included, a link on this paper that I can click on to go to their website. I'll get the actual link and put that in the description for you. Okay, we'll save the big guys for last, for better or for worse. I'm sure that this tray is not part of this overall package, or maybe it is, who knows. I particularly like stuff like this, the fishing tackle trays, or sometimes people put their thread spools in there. If you go into the crafts aisle and you get the ones that are advertised as spool holders, those are way, 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 way cheaper than the ones that are the exact same size and shape over in the fishing tackle area. even in the same store. So let's get started. Okay, the first thing that I want to point out is that, well, we won't be looking at the miniatures like this the whole time. I'm going to put them down and we're going to circle around them and stuff. But I want to point out these are SLA printed. These are printed with a resin printer, and the type of material that they're printed from, I don't know exactly how brittle it is. We are going to be doing a little bit of drop testing with these guys, but I can tell you that it's not super brittle. I think that these were pretty freshly printed. They were not completely cured. I would like to point that out, especially to the printer of the minis. Please give these guys the whole time that they need to be in the oven, because you don't want your customers opening up a package and getting that whiff of the resin fumes. That's not good. Like, by all accounts, get yourself a resin curer and do this the best way possible, but get them cured. These guys will probably need to go out into the sun for a little bit. You know that they're SLA because of the tells that are left on the miniatures, but that's a good thing. They're not PLA, which means they're not printed with the FDM version of 3D printing. They're not done with a plastic fed through an extruder 3D printer or an FDM. Fused deposit material, fused deposition. This is... Wait, we need to get the cards. Oh my god, the black hole again. We have averted a universal crisis for the second time in this video. All right, we are finally ready. First up, let's look at the giant wolf miniature. This is a pretty big miniature. We'll go ahead and compare it to existing HeroQuest miniatures just to give you an idea of the scale. To comment on the sculpts here, I do wish the bases had just a teensy bit of decoration, but it's totally fine. They don't have to have decoration. The HeroQuest bases don't. At least most of them don't. When the barbarian is only this big, you can't get much bigger in terms of giant wolf. Somewhere around here I have my actual frozen horror giant wolves. So here is the comparison between the HeroQuest giant wolf and the MegaQuest giant wolf. Personally, I like the sculpt. I don't think there has to be another giant wolf. This also has a different base size, so instead of looking at a 1x2, you've got a 2x2 going on. But if you don't already have the Frozen Horror expansion for HeroQuest, this is a good stand-in. Something I noticed right off the bat is that these miniatures are in the same poses as their card art counterparts. And that is pretty cool. I mean, no doubt the references provided to the sculptor were essentially just the card art, but the sculptor did a really good job at conveying the features in the 2D art onto the sculpt. The sculpts are, and I'm going to say this early on in the video, having already looked at all the sculpts, they're pretty well on par with next level miniatures. And I see that there was some liberties taken to accentuate or kind of blow up certain features of the artwork in order to make the features stand out more on the miniature, or just be easier to print and maybe easier to sculpt too. But I think that those were good decisions. In effect, the miniatures have essentially been converted to the style of the sculptor, but this is something that was probably going to have to happen in some form or another either way. But you see on this miniature that the teeth, the bottom teeth, really stand out, as do the ears on the blade board, where they don't stand out nearly as much on the card art. And this is not a complaint, it's just an observation. I actually do like this change. There's a lot of stuff that just conveyed really well from the shape of the armor and the features of what the character is wearing. And then you've got other stuff like the sword. There are parts of the sword where the shape has been maintained, but the scale of the parts are a bit changed. There are a couple of things throughout the review of the sculpts that I noticed not being super consistent, like sizes of left hand versus right hand and things like that. So if the sculptor could make those sizes more consistent, I think that would be awesome. These I do not believe were mirrored in the sculpting program at all to get a consistent size. But it's just the hand as far as the Blade Ward Mini goes. I think everything else about him is pretty neat. The decision to turn MegaQuest into its own game makes sense. The scales are not unbelievable for HeroQuest, and I don't think, looking at these, that there was too much consideration in basing the miniature sizes off of a HeroQuest scale. I think this is very much going to be its own thing. With the Blade Ward done, we'll move on to the Blade Master Hero. He's recognizable at a glance, which I really appreciate. You see the card, you look over at the minis, you can almost immediately see the miniature that is represented by the card. We'll get a look at the back as well. You see the sculptor has actually detailed the lines, so I assume those would have been part of a gambeson if the art had followed along consistently with the rest of that clothing article. The sculptor went as far as to say, okay, well, what the art says is law, and they went ahead and made one side shorter than the other. Pretty neat, pretty neat. We've got little bits that hang off like the belt here, very thin, but again, not brittle, and maybe that's because it's not exactly cured as long as it needs to have. But things aren't like staying in shape after I bend them. They are springing back, so I can't entirely blame it on the curing process. It may be something in the material, the specific resin material formulation used to sculpt the minis. It seems to be of a pretty hardy nature. I'm not saying they should shatter if you drop them from a height of 6 inches onto a neoprene mat. That should not be happening no matter what, but I have had some very brittle miniatures, 3D printed ones. We're going to skip ahead and look at the engineer and also the mechanical golem, which is both an enemy and a summon in the game of MegaQuest or in the Homebrew expansion of MegaQuest. I'm showing off the heroes exactly as I said I would not be doing, with my hand as the background. So you know me, you know I like halflings. The miniature is quite cute. Her expression is actually discernible underneath her swept, slightly unkempt, overgrown bangs. There's maybe just the slightest hint of support, which has not been removed on her face. Her hair goes out in spikes. The sculptor did a great job. We can see her hammer, her belt buckle, her chisel, her pouches. She's got some gears in her pouches, and then like for me, look at those gears. The sculptor knows what they're doing. The sculptor does know what they are doing, so I gotta give him props for that. Then we get the mechanical golem, and this is really going to pop probably once it is painted, and I would definitely want to paint this. This would definitely contribute to a pile of gray shame on my table. We would have to go with some colors faithful to the card art. The sculpts do remind me a little bit, this one does anyway, of Underdusk Miniatures' early work, where there are just shapes. There are a lot of shapes, and some shapes are extruded out of other ones in that 3D modeling program, but there's not a whole lot of definition to the shape. It's just, let's extrude and let's keep going. And those were choices because there's a little bit more definition in the card art in those same spots, so you know it doesn't have to be just like blank canvas everywhere. But I'm not going to riff on the sculptor for that. I would just say there are room for revisions, should revisions be acceptable and allowable and affordable and practical and desirable. It's a lot of ifs. I like working with a lot of ifs. Next up, we've got the merchant. I can tell where he is within seconds. So get a good look at that merchant art. We have a shirt that is split at the pecs. We've got a smile, longer hair, mustache, dagger, bag, the tops of pants, which I'm not sure exactly which one of these artists are responsible for this one. Going to the 3D sculpt, and the mustache has been maintained. I am happy to say the mustache is discernible. There is a pouch that is being ready to open. That's not grammatically correct. There is a knife, very thin stiletto, actually, at the side on the belt of this merchant. This merchant is very shady. He is much more like a thief, in my opinion. I'm starting to see that the backs are very shiny. I wonder if these guys were just like placed underneath one of those nail curer machines and then pulled back out without being flipped over. You gotta flip them over. You gotta flip them over. Or maybe that can happen if they're left in there too long on one side, because sometimes you can cure the heck out of a mini and you won't get rid of that shininess. It's just how it be. I can associate card art with mini. Let's see if I can associate mini with card art. So I'm just going through. Yep, there he is. This is the stone wall. You have found the skills to be as hard and heavy as stone. But will your miniature be hard and heavy as stone? Yeah, you have a very large round shield on your back, subject to a little bit of warping. It's not a big deal. It's a shield. It's going to get warped in battle. It's round. Don't expect to have a perfectly round shield if you're going into battle. The spear, though, the spear. I'd be worried about the spear. Spear's not breaking. Spear's pretty sturdy. I like that. These guys aren't like super hollow either. They're chunky. They're heavy. They're using up the resin. Details of the outfit are pretty well reproduced. Bottom of the kilt is a little bit flat. It's not flat in the art. This could be definitely more rigid, but we're gonna take him and we're gonna hold him up high, higher than my rig, and bounce him. We got one. We got a broken spear. That's on me. That's not really the fault of anybody but me. I decided to drop him. I knew what was going to happen. I'll glue that tip back on. Yeah, I deserved this. I'm sorry, Mr. Stonewall. I'm pleased to report the hero bases are all the same size. The heroes themselves do look marvelously in scale with one another. 3 different species here. I'm assuming the middle one is a halfling and not like a dwarf. They all look like they do belong in the same fantasy universe. Props to Inktree on that for sure. It looks like in this world we do have orcs that are shorter than humans. That's the stone wall. Let's do the researcher next. You can see the robe, the pipe. That right there, that's impressive. That's immersive. That's awesome. But what else is even cooler? The pages of the book. Do you see the pages of that book? Now you might think that's pretty brittle. I mean, they're really not that brittle. They kind of have a little bit of give to them. Imagine painting in between those pages. Are you skillful enough to get in between and make something that's like halfway legible as an illustration or text without just blopping on some color? I'm not, but is anyone out there? That would be so cool to see. Let's go ahead and look at the commander, who I have just dropped, but don't worry, he's fine. Now, some of you, if you have been following the channel for a while and you didn't see the other video, you know I absolutely abhor, detest AI-generated art, and I have my own reasons to believe that this art was, if not outright completely generated, at least heavily assisted. But the creator of this expansion pack, and I do feel that it's as important to point this out as it is to point out my own suspicions, is against AI art and commissioned artists that absolutely posited themselves as just normal digital artists. But I won't go on that rant right now. I will just say I'm watching you guys. I'm watching you guys very closely. But this sculpt was handmade, or at least I'm pretty sure it was. I mean, yeah, we can 3D generate sculpts now. That's a thing you can do. You can even get them rigged. That's not to say that they're good, but these are good. These are pretty good. So I would say that they're definitely handmade. Now, we've got here really thin representations of metal in the pauldrons, and those were kept, the integrity of those were kind of kept, but really they just look like discs. They just look like they could be cloth or something. I'd probably apply a little bit more curvature to them. There's a little bit, but I would flare them out more, because it just looks like flash. It just looks like something that we're supposed to peel off with the rest of the sprue, which there is no sprue because these are printed, but that's what it looks like to me, and it bothers me, but that's fine. The material is thin in spots. You can kind of see, like you can see through the coattail here. You can see my finger, right? Not talking about this empty space here, but I'm talking about behind the material. You can see through it. You can see through it in real life, just a little bit. It's slightly translucent. I'm not saying that's good. I'm not saying that's bad. But there are places where it really comes off as good and pretty immersive and cool. Like for the mage here, based on a high elf, we have a really cute, oh no, she lost her hand. Oh, that's my first casualty. I don't actually know if I remember her having a hand. There it is. I found it. I found her hand. There is her finely sculpted hand holding a fireball. It's there. It's hard to see, but it's there. I'm gonna have to glue it back on. For now, we are going to represent someone with a disability. She's missing a hand. That doesn't mean that she's any less potent, a grand sorceress, and I just wanted to point out, she has a very cute sculpt. The sculptor gave her a very cute pose. The way the boots are up, legs kind of crossed. She has like sort of a K-pop star vibe going on. It's cute, and I wanted to point out the translucency of the material here as well, and I think it makes a lot more sense here because she's got like a flowing dress, and you might decide to paint this all kinds of different ways. We'll have to surgically reattach her hand. Who's next? Next up, we have the rogue, who was really just the merchant in disguise, or maybe the merchant is just the rogue in disguise, but he's got two. What are those? Are those Kreese? No. Krises? No. Are those based on real weapons? I'm not sure. Here, the bracer could have been made a little bit more obvious. It seems to be flaring upwards because it's, sorry, but it's ill-fitted and it's not strapped on all the way to allow the rogue maximum movement, and this looks like it's a lot tighter, so maybe not made of the same material. I like to talk about things that don't matter as if they do. That's one of the themes here on the channel, so don't worry about it. Our boots were very, very close to the original art. And I'm going to say the original art really doesn't have a whole lot going for it. It's not one of my favorite illustrations from this set. It's just not super detailed. It doesn't have a lot of dynamicness to it, not a lot of originality, but the sculpt does follow it very closely. And you could paint this sculpt up to be a little bit more interesting than the artwork. What do we have here? Why, it's a berserker! Your rage is unmatched, and you never fail to make your enemies taste your metal. So things about this one, the dynamic pose, it's great. I'm not going to drop this guy from up on high because I'm sure that the axes will break right around here somewhere. At least that one will. Not sure about this one, but I could very possibly lose both of my axe heads if I had a habit of dropping this guy. So I think there's something you could probably spray your 3D printed resin miniatures with that would give them a little bit of tensile strength. But here we have the musculature, and I appreciate the musculature being sculpted such that we can really make out all of the different muscles. I think that's great. I think if this is painted, it's going to really pop. The paints are going to flow down, particularly if they're speed paints. Just get in focus. God, I don't want to set the focus manually. I want this to autofocus. I just want it to autofocus better and faster. It's not a DSLR. If it was, you'd never see the focus searching. You'd never see it. I need to save up and get like a Canon EOS or a Rebel T7 or whatever the heck. If you want to contribute to that, become a patron down below. Give me money so I can get a better camera. The beard has been sculpted. There's detail. You could tell the sculptor's a fan of dwarves and of berserkers and Vikings. There's just a lot of that dynamicness going on here in the clothing and in the shapes where there's not in some of the other minis. This is a blacksmith. He's got that strongman vibe. His miniature is very chunky. It is very much deserving to be on a board. This was one of my favorite miniatures out of this whole set. The face on it, it just oozes personality. Whatever is going on, we need more of this. Whatever sort of design convention is being utilized here, we need more of that. That's not to say that that any of the miniatures here are bad. Not saying that. I'm just saying that this one's just objectively awesome. This is one of the best ones in this whole package. The plate over the belly, the suspenders, all of the detail, not just in the hair, which is actually pretty well detailed for miniature hair, but also the beard and then the braided soul patch that some dwarves have that I find insufferable, but it works out here really well. His hooked nose and his quite stern expression really show through as well. I'm going to stop simping over this blacksmith and move on to the next one. Next one's a hunter. Where's my hunter? Who could it be? Is it you? Yes, it's you. This is the hunter who looks very much like an orc, and no worries, so does the miniature. The hunter has a lot going on. This is a lot going on. This is a challenging thing to represent in a medium. You have a lot of things, a lot of details. There's a bow, there's a giant axe, there's the clothing here, very tribal. There is the head of a creature that was hunted. All of it, however, has been completely sculpted. It's all played out. It's all given homage. It's all given its own space. The quiver and the bow has a string. Look at that. And it's even got a little bit of flex to it, which is just it's an incident. Incidentally it has flex, but it's incredible to push on a bowstring on a mini and see that it has flex, because nobody wants to create bowstrings because people are cowards and they don't want to make that extra bit of material. They're cowards. This is brave. There's a bowstring on this mini. This gets all of the points for that. The placement of the skull on the tunic is a little bit off. I'm sure my less than mature adult players at my table will have a little bit of a goof and a gaffe and a joke and a laugh about that, because it doesn't quite look like it's skull shaped. So maybe revise that completely. Just 100% take it off, resculpt it, put it back on. But everything else here is really cool. So this is a 10 out of 10 mini. It's easily tied with the blacksmith for my favorite out of this whole bunch. I actually really do think that the Demon Hunter K-pop wizard-esque lady is cool too. She's very cute. Okay, all right, I've been putting this off, but we need to look at this little... Where is he? There he is. It's the only one who kind of escaped my view. He's the thief, and he's going to be insufferable. His miniature is, yes, also insufferable. He looks like Luigi. The mustache and the nose are very Luigi-coded on this guy's face. Maybe you're into that. It's totally understandable if so. I mean, I'm a Luigi fan myself. We have a little flowing capelet, we have 2 bags of money, we have the dynamic run. Everything's really well balanced, I want to say. There's nobody at risk of toppling over. Like, the balance needs to be complemented. I don't want to look at him anymore. We're going to move on to the shaman. The shaman is an orc lady who has a skull with its jaw open at the end of a staff, and all of that is very clearly communicated. The size and shape and scale of the skull, very good. The body of the miniature, very good. The bits of material that form the skirt, all tattered, rough, hanging down. Care was put into that. I appreciate that. Detail was given to the hair. Very good. Everything else about it's just fine. The face has got detail. You can't really see them maybe in the video. Maybe right now you can. She's got her little tusks, and that works. That works really well. I'm appreciative of that. Okay, that is everybody from the base package here. Now it is time to get into the larger miniatures and show you what these summoned creatures look like. This was where the whiff of resin really hit me, so I'm going to be washing my hands and cleaning a few things up after this video is done. But we'll just go ahead and reveal. There's 4 of them here, 2 of each kind. And I really get Hercules, the Disney movie, animated movie, kids' meal toy vibes from all this, which is a really good thing. It's a great thing. Let's start in no particular order. We'll go with the Earth Elemental. Here he is. This is probably one of... Evidently, this had a lot of time put into it. And yet, some of these details do get lost in the sauce. If you paint this with speed paints, you could have the paint go into the crevices and be darker and kind of automatically shade. And I think it would really, really pop on this sculpt. But it looks like the mossy bits around what would be the shoulders of this particular mini, as evidenced by the artwork, look like supports. I'm not saying they are. I don't think that these are supports at all. They're supposed to be mossy bits. There's little bits of twigs and stems and some leafage coming out. But it looks like supports, and it looks like an unfinished model because of that until you take a closer look. So I think that painting is very important to not have that detail be miscommunicated visually. So paint this guy up. Also, I wasn't sure how his face was supposed to look because it's pretty ambiguous in the card art. So it's interesting that this was what they went for. I'm sure that this was definitely approved, so I have to imagine that this was the intended design for this creature, but it still looks a little bit odd in 3D, so I'm not quite sure how to look at that and parse it. It kind of reminds me of Dr. Robotnik. It's just a huge mustache in my mind. So that's my dumb comment for the day. There's a lot of detail going on here. A lot of shapes were made and put together, but I just wonder how much of it was too much work for what this is. I will say, again, well, he does stand up, and you do kind of have to shake the table to get him to fall over. If any miniature in this whole collection is a little bit unbalanced, it might be this guy, but he's not super unbalanced. I mean, he's fine. He's fine. Also, 2x2 space. He towers over other miniatures, so you're not going to see this guy encroach on the height of any of the heroes or anything like that. He's just absolutely huge. He's huge. Like, here's the barbarian coming across a statue that they have found in jungles of Delthrak, and now here's the statue coming across a rock monster it found in jungles of MegaQuest. I made up that name. It's not a thing that exists. There is no jungles of MegaQuest. Don't at me. Let's move on to the fire elemental. This guy right here, another one where a lot of liberties were taken to sculpt out the flames, and I think the silhouette is very much done justice. The silhouette's fine here. That back half doesn't exist, so we'll just pretend, you know, that this monster never turns around. And why would he when you have all of this front side raging inferno? This is great. This is fine. So he's going to walk backwards out of every room. But yeah, the details on the flames around the forearms and the feet and the flames erupting from where he stands, that's cool. Details in the face, very jack-o'-lantern-like in the artwork. They do come across here, but again, we get wispies that are so thin, they kind of look like they were supports that failed to pull off. And we do have a couple of other spots like that here that I think might have been actual supports, but I'm not 100% sure on that. These guys might have actually been leaned back when they were printed, or they were printed on their back. I'm seeing what look like layer lines on the bases going horizontal, and I think if that was the case, maybe they were cured before the supports were torn off, and that's why we have these shiny spots. Don't do that. Make sure you remove your supports, then cure the mini, but maybe that also didn't happen and it has nothing to do with the actual process. This one's my favorite of the three, and it's because of his serpentine look. And yes, I'm just gendering all these guys as he. They may not be, and if they're not, then I apologize to the creator, but everybody's a little guy on this table at some point. So look at the way that these come off of the actual sculpt. Like, that's great. This one has such dimensionality. The fingers are curled in. They have weight. They have power. They have presence. We have a couple of pieces that are support, but it's like, just color it blue with the rest, and it'll look like water that has surface tension that didn't break yet. And this is our artwork. I would say the water elemental's head in the artwork is very charming. I like that. I don't think that it came across 100% in the sculpt, but it's close enough. It is close enough. It's fine. And that's our water elemental. We have a lot of detail put into the armor. There's just all kinds of 3D imprint that was brought out. The scales, supposed scales on the lower half do come out. They do pop, and this would be another thing that would just wow people if you 3D, if you speed painted it. And then we have this tail, which isn't represented in the artwork at all. I would say it was ad-libbed, but it's very good. It works very well with this overall beast. He is on a 2x2 base. His tail might encroach on other miniatures. I'd probably put him on a 2x6 just to really drive the point home that he's massive, and that water tends to physically alter the environment around an elemental, maybe a little bit easier than the other types. But what do I know? That is the entire presentation of all the miniatures for the newest edition of MegaQuest Awakened. You can get that in the description below. A huge thank you to Deathtone and DeathForge Games for sending me this collection. I think that these are a great, like a fantastic start to a beautiful future for the game, which is still in its own journey. It's not anywhere at the beginning necessarily, but you know, with every little change like this comes a new beginning, and a new branch has been taken on the multiversal pathway of life. So thanks again for that. And I did say I'd have a few ground shots, so we'll just take my favorites out, and you can enjoy a few seconds of immersion with the MegaQuest miniatures set up around the HeroQuest board with some furniture, and also with some dirt cheap games dungeon walls, which only come in at about $1.25 a piece, making them dirt cheap. All right. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you very much for the kind attention, and please comment what you want down below. The creator will be reading, will be listening. You can guarantee that. If you are disagreeable about the price, do make that known, but be civil about it. I don't want to see a whole bunch of $150 is utter nonsense. Who would even pay in this economy? It's a hobby. It's a hobby. Everybody who's watching this video would pay $150 for the right thing. It's enough to say, please make it cheaper and I'll buy it. I mean, that is fantastic feedback. Please make it cheaper, make it about this much and I'll buy it. I don't want any smart Alex saying, make it $5 and I'll buy it. Be useful, be constructive. That's the way to make progress in this world, in this economy. Constructive. All right, thanks guys one more time, and I'll see you next time, another more time. This outro's a mess. Goodbye.